This is the Brewing Fiction Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of fiction alongside its writers. In the following episode, you will hear the up-close and personal journey into the worlds created by our guest. So grab your cup, get comfortable, and let us pour you a steaming cup of captivating storytelling. Here on the Brewing Fiction Podcast, we bring hidden stories to life and share them with the world. Tell me a book that has made you cry in the past.
Oh man, I don't know. Like I do get very emotional when I read books sometimes. Oh, you know what?
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I think of one. I've read it like a million times, and I still love it. It's actually a trilogy. Have you heard of the author Guy Gabriel Kay?
I have
not.
No, he's a Canadian fantasy author, and he writes historical fiction. But his Fiona Tapestry and the first book in the series is called The Summer Tree. Man, I bawled like a baby. Those are just amazing. They're so well written, and there's magic, and there's love stories over the ages, and there's fights, and there's war, and it just has a bit of everything, and it's such a beautifully written book. Like, it's very poetic also. His writing is beautiful.
Awesome. To check out his work.
Yes.
The next time I feel like having a good cry.
Exactly. There's high adventure, but any good book has some sad parts too. So there are some parts.
Oh yeah, definitely. We have to torture our readers.
Right?
I love it. I'm going to ask you a question now, and it's going to lead into probably a very lengthy conversation. How do you feel about AI and its effect on writing?
I knew where this was going. Okay.
You knew we had to ask that question.
Well, AI, what is being used right now for writing is sort of, because we're sort of on the cutting edge of it. It is being used in some good ways and being used in some bad ways.
Right.
For example, the way that the companies have trained the programs on writers' works without their permission is currently being fought out in the courts because, they basically train their programs on the copyrighted work of people who did not say that they could.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
People who then benefit from that are basically stealing their work. And you know what? Again, it's being fought out in court, so hopefully no one will hold my words against me. But I would not really enjoy someone taking my words and putting them in a program and having someone spit out something new, but taking my style of writing.
Right. Yeah.
And it sort of begs the question, why are we writers? We write because we love it. We write because we have a story to say. We have something unique to say. And when someone breaks it down into dollars and cents, it sort of takes that away. And it's a business. I make my living off of it. Other people make their living off of it. Sure. But when it's only for profit and it's run through big corporations who are not looking out for the little guy and not looking out for the creativity of it, then it loses a lot of why we're doing this. So I am definitely on the non-pro AI side of the equation. And I'm doing my part, hopefully, to fight against it and have other authors be hopeful about something that seems to be right now something threatening what they love to do.
How do you feel about authors who do use AI like Chat GPT to outline their novels or help them outline a story or generate story ideas for them? How do you feel about that?
There's a fine line. So,
yes, I totally agree with that.
It's hard right now because honestly, technology will always outpace laws. Technology will always outpace what we know something could or should do. So I know authors who do that. Yes. But I feel like the regulations should catch up with that. One thing that I've proposed actually in my writers group, and writers were like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. I feel like it should be regulated like songs are regulated. So if you play a song on the radio, then the artist gets, some pennies, on each song, each time it's played. Yeah. I feel like if they did that with authors, like if authors gave permission and said, okay, well, anytime that my work is referenced or used or whatever, then I get a cut of it. I get a royalty in some way. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how authors, like they sell a book, they get a royalty from their publisher. So if there was some way to make it equitable, to make it like fair to the people whose work is being used, I think that would be a good solution. And the companies could make a profit. The authors would not be cut out of that. And they're the ones who are producing the work. So they're the ones who should also be getting some sort of compensation for it.
Right. Do you run any other type of groups? You have a poetry group. What does your writing group focus on mainly?
My writing group is actually, we have writers who write different things. Most of us do focus on speculative fiction. But we have, for example, we have literary writers, we have poets, we have just commercial fiction, women's fiction. So we're welcoming of all, but we do warn people if they're joining our writers group, most of us, you're going to see like a spaceship.
A dragon.
Dragon, so if you don't like that, we're probably not the best group to join.
Yeah, sounds like a good place for me.
Exactly.
That's my favorite. So is your group on Facebook or how does it work?
Oh, we're on Meetup, and we like to keep it small. So it's called Fairfield Scribes, and that actually is how our press started. So we started out just putting together, this was before my time, before I joined the group. The group put out an anthology of just like their fiction,
cool.
And it was zombie stories.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I came in and they're like, well, we were thinking of doing another anthology. So let's see who will be the editor. We're all editors, all writers. And I was the last one. I don't know if you know the whole thing where it's a kid's thing where if you say not it, you touch your nose. So I was the last one to do that. So I was the editor for that. And I don't do things by half measure. So after that, we started producing regular anthologies. We started a literary magazine. We now run an annual contest with cash prizes. So again, I went from one anthology to publishing lots of things.
That's really awesome. I know how much work it is to publish, to edit and publish anthologies. It's a lot of work, but it is a labor of love. Yes. Because I love it. I love doing it. So I think we're lucky to be able to do what we love,
It's true.
Yeah. What a great way to make a living. Something you love. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? So let's keep going with AI. And if you wouldn't mind, Alison, sharing your project, have you started Author versus AI quite yet?
We're about to start.
Yeah,
of course,
I
there's
thought you
stuff
were
going on
Yeah.
in the background. But yeah, so as you said, my project is Author versus AI. And this is how I am fighting back. The little person is fighting back against the big corporation. So yeah, basically my plan, and this comes out of my ghostwriting, this comes out of my own writing. I write pretty fast, and I get that a lot of writers are not like that. They, they take much longer to produce a book. I don't. Yeah. So I currently write for clients and for myself about a book a week, about 40,000 words a week.
Wow.
So,
right. Oh my God.
That's the actual definition of a book. It's 40,000 words.
That is goals.
Yeah. Granted, it's not 100%. Sometimes I write more, sometimes I write less. But it's about that. So a friend of mine who is actually also an editor, yay editors, was like, well, if you're doing this for other people, why aren't you doing it for yourself? And I was like, oh, crap, that's a great idea. And he was actually, his name's Robert Rente. He's a fantastic editor in Alberta. He actually came up with the tagline Author versus AI for me, because we were talking about AI also during that conversation. And so my goal is to write a book a week for a whole year, 52 books in total.
Wow.
And all genres. I have a whole list. I think it's 32 genres and subgenres. And I will be starting on Global Book Day this month, April 23rd.
Wow.
And it will run all the way to Global Book Day of next year. And the goal is use no AI at all, not in the books themselves, not in the writing, the composing, the outlines, anything. And also another thing that I'm doing, because I like to go local, and my aunt is an artist, is I am going to be I have been reaching out to artists in my community who have signed up to be on board with this project, and they will be doing the art for the covers. And I will be paying them to do the art for the covers. So paying them, fair compensation for their work. And so the covers won't be AI, the interior won't be AI, it will be all human creativity in each of these books. And I'm very excited about it.
Oh boy, yeah.
That sounds amazing.
It does, right?
So is this a challenge for anyone to join? This, like a book a week? Is this something you challenge yourself? That is such an amazing accomplishment. That kind of lights a fire under me. Oh, that's so great. So what is your first idea, for the book you're going to start on Global Book Day? Do you already have an idea, or are you going to sit down that day and come up with an idea and go from there?
Well, I have all the outlines prepped. So I'm going to keep it a surprise. It will be speculative fiction.
Okay.
That's fair. That's
I will be posting on my website about the first book, sort of the back cover copy type of description of it. I will be posting that on my website prior to starting. So people can follow along with my journey. I'll be posting regularly on my website. I might take a few short videos and throw them up on YouTube or TikTok or something so people can see me pulling out my hair. Like, why did I start this? But yeah, there'll be ways to get in contact. I'm also planning on going to local libraries where people, if they want to come up, I'll post where I'll be and when they can come up and ask me about it if they're interested. So,
oh, that's cool. That's a cool idea.
It'll be fun.
Global Book Day. Making a note here.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, how do you you said you like to be local? How do you approach people locally? How have you garnered an audience from your local community?
So one way that I've learned all about publishing is I try everything once at least.
That's
so
good.
Yeah, I mean it's how most people learn, I guess. You can try and you fail, then you try and then you succeed.
That's right. That's right.
So I love being where I am because there's a wonderful community of writers. There's a wonderful community of poets. There's many writers groups. There's the Writers Guild. There's the Stroll of Poets. So there's a ton of local. There's also national organizations to join if you want to get the word out. So definitely look around, and libraries are great resources too. There are a lot of writing groups, readings through local libraries too.
Great. Those are good ideas for reaching out. Do you have your books in local bookstores?
I do have them. They're also in local libraries. So again, I like to tell people, yes, I'm losing a sale if I direct them to the library, but hey, you can also read it for free if you just like to read it. So I do like to support local libraries too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
That is great. It's interesting because that's the first thing I thought about when my cousin has released a couple of books, and when he posted that he finally had his books into libraries in Newfoundland, I was like, that is so cool. However, you're losing sales by offering, right? But who doesn't love a library? So.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like you're not necessarily losing. I mean, you might be losing one or two, but hey, what if they love your book? Then they might buy it, or they might buy your next one. So
exactly, right.
Hopefully, creating lifelong fans,
more accessible. Yes. For kids, or are you more adult? I guess you're more adult oriented, but like if you have children or anyone who can't really afford to buy a lot of books, having it in the library is a great way, like you said, to start building a new fan base.
Yeah.
Well, I have a funny story. So I moved to the town I live in, which is a small town outside of Edmonton, about 1.5 years ago. And the local library has my books. And my daughter, my first book is a YA. So my daughter, her friends found out that I was an author and that I had written a YA book. And so all her friends read my book. They went to the library.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool.
That is cool.
And I didn't know about this at first because they were sort of like passing, oh, I love this book. And then they passed it to the next person. Oh, I love this book. So like it actually, now I don't know if it's a fan base, but all of her friends think I'm cool. So that's
nice.
In my book.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool story.
That is very cool. And you know what? I think you're right. It's a fan is going to support you anyway. So if you get a fan from a library, your fan for life is going to support your work down the road too. So
yeah,
I love that. What I was looking forward to most today was hearing about your author versus AI, and I can't wait until you get going on that. Looking forward to it, and we'll try and do is release the podcast the week before, just so that more word gets out there for you. And is there anything else you'd like to share about author versus AI? Any advice you can offer our listeners to pump them up, to get them excited about writing, maybe starting their journey?
Yeah. Well, for author versus AI, one thing that I do plan to do is, as I mentioned, I am going to be, having different artists do the book covers. And I do plan on running a Kickstarter for that. So I would love if people are interested in the project to maybe check out the Kickstarter. This is just to pay the artists. And it will have fun prizes. For example, because I'm writing so many books, I can do this. People can pledge and then be a character in the book. They can be like a main character, or they can be a villain, or there are a couple other things that I'm offering, such as editing. I'm an editor, so if you'd like to, support the project, one of the gifts back is to have a one-on-one editing session with me.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff that people could sign up for it. And then you're supporting a great cause and you're paying artists, which is always a good thing.
Yes, indeed.
For the project. So that's not off the ground yet. So I wish I had a website link to give you, but I don't yet. But it's in the works. Because the publication will come down the road. It's not going to be all at once. But for writers, yeah, I love being a publisher, because not just do I get to work with great authors who have already been published and, this is part of their journey, but there's no better feeling than being the publisher for someone's first piece.
Yes.
It's such a wonderful feeling, and
it is.
I love working with new writers. But the number one thing is just persistence, because rejection is hard, but it's such a big part of this business. And I could wallpaper the inside and the outside and the roof and the basement of my house, all the rejections I've received. And so what I like to tell new writers is you can look at everything I've done and awards and all that kind of stuff and be like, wow, she did it. And it's so amazing. And she has all this stuff behind her name. But like, there were years that it took me where I got rejection after rejection after rejection. And I was like, oh man, I should give up. But I didn't, because I love it. And as long as you love it, you're going to find an editor or a publisher or an agent, or even self-publishing yourself and finding a reader who will love it as much as you do, because we put our heart and soul into every piece, and you're going to find someone who connects with you over it, and you can inspire the next generation of writers and readers. So don't give up. Keep on going, take it on the chin and keep on going.
Great advice.
Oh, that is,
and it's so
great.
Easy to get caught up in imposter syndrome and comparing yourself to other writers. And we have to remember to sort of stay in our lane, as far as we need to only compare ourselves to our past writing and not to other people. And look at how far you've come. Read your old pieces, and then you're like, wow, I have come a long way. So Keith, you said you're a new writer.
I am.
Make sure you keep everything. And then years later, you'll look back at it and say, wow, you can see all of that growth.
Such great advice. And that is exactly why the Brewing Fiction podcast was started. I want writers like myself to hear from writers like you two, and so much advice. Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Alison, for being on the show today.
Yes, thank you.
Looking forward to Author versus AI. And I will link your website and hopefully some future links for Author versus AI and your Kickstarter and all those good things. Let's
definitely.
I'll invite the listeners to check out the podcast homepage to find all those links and see where it goes for you.
Perfect. Thanks so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
It was so great to meet you, and you have so many exciting things on the horizon. So I'm really excited to follow you and see where your journey takes you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
What an inspiring episode from Alison. She started her challenge of 2 million plus words in 365 days on April 23rd. Visit authorversusai.com to follow along, or drop by the podcast homepage for more information. Join us next week when Swift Current, Saskatchewan's own Devin Ullman drops by to talk about Dead Prairies Productions, his nonprofit movie company that creates low-budget, independent horror movies. Devin shares how his journey has unfolded since writing and releasing his first movie in 2012 called Zombageddon, to the upcoming release of Gorfer's Final Gnaw, set to premiere on May 11th, 2024. Stop by the podcast homepage to see what else is brewing on the Brewing Fiction podcast. You can find a link in the description. And don't forget to click the subscribe button to be notified whenever a new episode is released.